Hi y'all. In this video, I wanted to discuss using cell references in Excel. To do this, we'll work on a new sheet that I've already titled Cell References, and we actually see on the screen the end result we're going to have. Now, I expect all of you could make this addition table from 1 through 10 by hand if you wanted to, but I want to demonstrate how to do this using Excel with some interesting functionality. First, we need to have a top row listing 1 through 10. Well, we have that, but I'm going to start this from scratch, so let's get rid of what's on the screen. Again, we want a top row listing 1 through 10. To do this, I'll type 1 into cell B1. Now I could just type 2, 3, and so forth into the appropriate cells along the first row, but this misses a powerful Excel tool involving both functions and relative cell references. Instead, in cell C1, I'll type equals B1 plus 1. Hitting enter gives me the result 2 that I want and expect. Now I could proceed by typing equals C1 plus 1 into cell D1, but that misses some of the functionality I want to talk about. Instead, I'll copy and paste the contents of cell C1 into D1. There are several methods of doing that, including using Control C and Control V, but right now I'm going to select cell C1 and right click, then select copy, move to cell D1, right click, and select paste. Now if we look at the content bar, the formula bar, and we look at what's in cell D1, we see that it says C1 equals C1 plus 1. While I copied and pasted equals B1 plus 1, and it reflects equals C1 plus 1 rather than exactly the contents of C1. What's that about? Well, Excel is making use of what's known as a relative cell reference. That is, the cell referred to when you pasted changes to reflect the direction of the paste. Excel, in essence, knows what you meant, or at least what the Excel programmers think you meant. So to complete the top row, all I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy C1 and paste it to the remaining appropriate values here. And I hit Control C to do that. As I go through and I put the numbers in the first column, I could do this in the same way, but I'll show another use of Excel's functionality. I'm going to type 1 into A2, 2 into A3. Now, sometimes Excel actually can figure out what you meant. I mean to go 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So I'm going to select this corner here and drag this down, and you can see these numbers are being populated into those cells as I drag it down, and I get the result that I wanted. Alright, so our goal in this assignment is to make an addition table, but first let me pretty this up just a little bit. I'm going to put some borders on here. Alright, that separates out our field a little better. Again, we want to make an addition table here. So let's start by making the value in B2, which should be 1 plus 1, which I'll get by taking equals B1 plus A2. And that gives me the result 2 that I want. Alright. Now, what would be really great would be to copy that cell reference to the rest of the sheet. Now let's try that along the second row and see what happens. Control C, Control V. Now, that doesn't really look like the results of an addition table. To see what are in those cells, I'm going to hit Control Accent. The accent in most keyboards is directly next to the 1, Control and Accent, and that shows me the formulas. And before I talk about anything else, let me point out, along the first row, in B1 we have 1, in C1 we have equals B1 plus 1, then D1 equals C1 plus 1, and so forth along the top row. So it actually has those formulas. If you remember how we did the first column, you're going to see here it's just the actual values 1 through 10, not a formula. So that's something to pay attention to. Alright, so back to the addition table portion here. Alright, in the second row, I see equals B1 plus A2. Then in the cell C2, I see equals C1 plus B2. Now let's actually try to think about what we wanted in that cell. I wanted to take the value 2 that was in C1 and add it to the value 1 that was in A2. But instead, as I copied this over, the relative cell reference for A2 changed to be B2. The C1 is what I want, but the B2 is not. I wanted to have A2, not B2. Hitting Control Tab again. Let's delete out that stuff. So again, What I really want here is I want to have C1 plus A2, and you can see those cells highlighted now. Well, that would be nice to have there. And to get that, I'm going to use what's called, I'm going to make use of another functionality of Excel. I want to hold this A2 constant as I want to hold it, in fact, I want to hold column A constant as I go across. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the A to hold just the column, that is column A, constant. If I do that and I copy that, we see the reference now in C2 is equal C1 plus dollar sign A2. That is, the A did not change as I went across. I can do that again all the way across, and that'll give me the results that I want. Okay. To go down column 1, I need to do a similar thing. Except as I go down column 1, I do want the rows to be changing for the first column. That is, I want this to be equals A3. I want the row to go down, plus, but I want B1 to stay constant as I go down this set. So I also need the 1 here, that is the row reference in the first entry, to stay constant. Changing that, if I now copy and paste this, I get the results that I want. And in fact, this particular cell reference allows me to copy and paste this to the entire addition table and get the results that I wanted. So that's some of the functionality here. Now, to discuss one more thing to make use in how those dollar signs will work. Suppose I had a number here in A14 that I wanted to use repeatedly in a lot of different ways. I could refer to that as dollar sign A, dollar sign 14, and no matter what direction I go, it's always going to be referring to that. And in fact, if you look at the formula bar as I hold it on this cell E20, you're going to see it's equal dollar sign A, dollar sign 14. It's not changing. It's holding that reference constant no matter where I move that to. Well, that's all for this video. Have fun excelling.